this is obviously a very hot topic and something a lot of experts, something a lot of fans have been talking about lately. The struggles of Astralis and how can we solve them? How can Astralis solve them? And do we ever get to see Astralis back to being one of the best teams, if not the best team in the entire world? Now recently the news broke out that Lucky was going to be replaced with Farlig. That was leading up to the major cycle that is coming now. The RMI events, the qualifier for the major is starting. There was a roster lock happening, so if Astralis were to do any roster changes, it had to be now. Very important to understand for the context of this video and for the timing that Astralis had to act. Some people said it was a bit rushed. I would tend to agree, but they had a time limit, and I think that Lucky was on the cusp of being cut actually for longer than a lot of people thought. Now, let's bring it back, right? Lucky came into Astralis as a big question mark. He was a great talent playing for Tricked, and during his time in Tricked, a lot of Danes at least knew Lucky to be one of the great AWP talents the country had to offer. That being said though, I don't think a lot of people actually recognized and thought that Lucky could be an AWP player on the very highest level. Not yet at least. He was still young, 17, 18 years of age. But fact of the matter is that he got an offer from Astralis, right? That by the loss of Dupree, Device, and all these legends of the game, well, they have to replace them with new young blood. And Lucky was the guy spotted out to be potentially the AWP player who could walk into Astralis and bring in new energy, a new way of thinking Counter-Strike, and maybe a new mindset to the team, where you try to integrate some of the young talent. On paper, I like the idea. Unfortunately for Lucky, it didn't work out at all. And this is where the video, will spread out a little bit, and I'll try to add some context just to avoid any Danish fans or any international Astralis fans for being too mad at me or not really understanding the, complexity of the situation. Now, Lucky did not play well in Astralis. I have to establish that from the get-go, because I see a lot of fans, especially Danish, but also a few international fans saying that, he wasn't that bad. He was doing well. Or he was a clutch machine. They should have given him more time. While the last point, sure, you could have given him more time, but that would probably just prolong the crisis Astralis were in. Now, Lucky did have brief moments of brilliance, especially the first tournament when he was moved from an AWP into a rifle at Blast Royal Arena. He actually played okay with the rifle. He wasn't good. Now, he wasn't bad either. He had a couple of clutch moments, he had a couple of good moments, and I guess people's expectations for Lucky on a rifle was super, super low, so he kind of surprised everyone. Now, moving away from that period where Lucky was on the rifle, he was then being brought back to the AWP leading into the first couple of big events of the year in 2022, and we instantly saw that Lucky just didn't have it in Astralis. He was super, super passive, he was afraid of making any confident plays, and his rating and his performance was suffering massively, even despite being in his preferred role of choice in the AWP role. Again, I think his average rating with the AWP in Astralis was somewhere around 0.84. 0.84. That is super, super low. His ADR was the worst by any top 20 AWP players in the entire world. The lowest. Yet you still hear people saying that Lucky just needed a little more time. He was doing well. Stop being so harsh on him. He's still young. While I do agree, he is still young. Astralis is a team that is built to be, if not one of the best teams in the world, then at least the best team in the world. Understanding of that is that the budget Astralis is having, the money they pay the players, and the whole setup behind the organization is super, super professional. So if Astralis is not a top 5 team, they're not doing good enough. That is just something we have to establish as well. Now, I want to take Lucky into the fence as well, because when he came into Astralis, he was then playing AWP, moved to rifle, moved to AWP role. It was a very turmoil period that he came into. So for a young guy who is looking to establish himself as a tier 1 pro, coming into a team that is clearly dysfunctional, where not only Lucky is a problem, but Glay was not playing well, not calling well, just became a father, so obviously had focus elsewhere. Config, being up and down. Config one day would be one of the best riflers out there, the next day would be a potato. You have Sipnix, who, for the vast majority of the past 2 years, have played way under level. He's been underperforming for a very long time. So, to establish this line right here, Lucky was a problem in Astralis, but Lucky was not the only problem in Astralis. So I can to some degree understand why Lucky would suffer from this. Again, being moved from being an AWP into a rifle, which you've never been, not even on a tier 2, tier 3, or tier 4 level, have to do that at, a great event like Blast Royale Arena and actually do well, I think that deserves some credit. But apart from that, there was nothing positive to drag out of Lucky's career within Astralis, unfortunately, because I think the kid has talent. I think he showed us that in Tricked, and I think that it's more so a case of not feeling comfortable and not having confidence on the server that made him play way below what you can expect from Lucky, way below what I think he could do in the future. So while I definitely do agree that Astralis should definitely cut Lucky, they should definitely look into someone else. In this case, that what Farlig being brought in, we'll touch upon him later. I don't think Lucky by any means is done as a professional Counter-Strike player. He's still young. He definitely learned a ton from this stage, and I think that he could go into a tier 2, tier 3 team, gain some more experience, and re-find some of that confidence that we saw in Tricked and become a much, much better player. Now, a lot of the defense coming in from a lot of people as well, saying that, well, how about you kick Sypnix as well? And I'm not necessarily against that. All I'm saying is that Astralis had config being a problem. He's now back to playing some super solid Counter-Strike, so not necessarily a problem anymore. Glaive not playing well enough, still a problem. Getting slightly better, but again, we'll have to wait and see. Syp not playing well enough, that's a massive problem. Lucky not playing well enough, that's a massive problem. Astralis having some poor T-sides, well, another problem, right? So you have 4 major problems right now in Astralis, and you have eliminated one in Lucky, potentially. We don't know if Farlig's going to do better, but at least you're trying. So, from an objective point of view, I think that's the right decision. Something had to change within Astralis, and I'm sorry on Lucky's behalf. He's young, inexperienced, and as said, it was not easy work conditions. So I do feel with him, but I still think the kid has talent. I still think he could fight back. It's just not going to be in Astralis within the next year or two. Moving on, what's the future looking like for Astralis? Bringing in Farlig. Do we really think that he's going to fix all problems in Astralis? I don't. I think he could be a catalyst behind some of the problems, maybe if he comes in with a different mindset, finds more impact than Lucky, a bit more aggressive on the up, that could solve some of the problems on Astralis T side. Because one of the major issues they had is if config is not playing well and BlameF is not playing well, nothing happens on Astralis T side. Sip is a very passive rifler. Glaive is busy calling, not really feeling comfortable. You need an AWP presence once in a while to open up the rounds or close down clutches, which Lucky didn't do often enough in his time. I'm not sure Farlig has that ability right now. He's himself also, been considered by quite a lot of people to be a big talent, but not quite sure if he's big enough, not quite sure if he's good enough. We didn't really get to see that in FPX, which was his first, I guess, touch and go with tier 1 Counter-Strike. So I'm open, I don't really know what to think yet. I don't think Farlig is going to be a major difference maker, but maybe just a slight difference in the dynamic in Astralis could be enough to eliminate some of the other problems, right? The T side I highlighted, maybe that's not a problem anymore. Maybe that gives Glaive confidence, so that's not a problem anymore. So all of a sudden we have 2 problems, which is config being up and down, which is not really a problem anymore either. Then that leaves Sypnix, being an issue. Sip played better at IM Katowice, and I think Sypnix have had, a serious talk with Astralis, basically being told, like he was told in, I think that was 14 or 15 as well, either you step up right now or we will have to address the market and find another rifler instead of you. Usually that works with Sypnix. He then steps up, and I think we saw glimpses of that in Katowice. So overall, I think when you look at Astralis' lineup right now, making the decision to change Lucky for Farlig is a good one in the sense that something had to change. Do I think Farlig can be the difference maker? Not quite sure. We'll have to wait and see. Having Glaive still as an in-game leader, I think is a positive thing. He can definitely make it work. BlameF and Config, you don't want to touch those two. They are they're the catalyst behind success within Astralis. They're the 2 players signed to replace Dupree and Magix, and you don't want anyone else in the Danish scene. Unless you want to go international, those are your 2 best talents in Denmark, especially when it comes to the rifle. So I would bank a lot on BlameF continuing to perform incredibly well, and I would bank a lot on Config continuing to, I guess, working to become more consistent. Because when he's at his best, we saw that at Katowice, he can go toe-to-toe against the very best riflers in the entire world. That leaves, again, Sypnix as a question mark. Do I think he can continue to show promise after IM Katowice? Yes, I do have more faith in Xyp9x than most people have, but I'm also willing to say that unless Xyp9x plays well at the next major or finds a way not to be a liability within Astralis within the next 2 or 3 months, I think Xyp9x is going to be the next guy who's going to get cut. In terms of Danish rifle talent, there's actually quite a lot. I don't think that is a big issue. When it comes to the ops, again, we have to settle with Farlig. Maybe he turns out to be a great opper. Maybe he's not going to be the right fit. We'll have to wait and see. But in terms of rifle skills out there, you can definitely find someone who can replace Xyp9x or buy out Valde from OG if you have the money. That would be a fantastic fit for Astralis and would instantly make them, in my opinion, title contenders. Bringing in Valde instead of Xyp9x, that should be enough skill on the server, should be enough stability on the server that they could be very dangerous. So that's my bottom line right here. Astralis right now, no, they're not going to be the best team in the world. And no, I don't think they're going to be a top 5 team in the world consistently within the next 6 months. But I do think they've made the right steps in terms of getting better and better and better. We'll have to see if Farlig can grow into the role, and we'll have to see if Xyp can step up and play even better than they did at Katowice. Otherwise, you'll have to look elsewhere for a new rifler as well. Glaive remains a question mark a little bit as well. In terms of calling, in terms of his individual skill, it's been very much up and down. The T-sides of Astralis have struggled a lot, and I think that comes as a big surprise for a lot of people. You bring in Blame F, who's been an in-game leader in complexity for a year. You combine him with Glaive, who arguably has been the best in-game leader of all time in CSGO, and you think there should be enough, should be enough brain power. There should be enough in-game leading power in the team to make it work. But maybe there's too many voices. Maybe there's too many directions. Maybe there's too many ideas, or maybe they haven't found a common ground yet to play from. Hard to say from the outside, but Glaive remains a question mark. So all in all, that would be my analytical, I guess, assessment of Astralis right now, that they're taking steps in the right direction. We're yet to see if the Farlig versus Lucky is going to be a big step in the right direction. We're yet to see if that can change some of the other problems in Astralis. I think people have to remember that the dynamic in Counter-Strike is very fluid. So if Farlig comes in and plays well, that could erase the whole T-side problem. That could give Glaive more confidence and more time to maybe focus on a guy like Config to make him feel even more comfortable, etc, etc, etc. There's a lot of ripple effects when it comes to Counter-Strike. So bottom line, I think what we can conclude right now, if you want to make a conclusion from this video and if you want to have a take on it, Astralis right now is a massive question mark to me. I don't know where to put them. I don't think they're going to be a top 5 team, as said. They're definitely not going to be the best team in the world, as said right now. But maybe, just maybe, they'll establish themselves as a team that can make playoff every time, that can be dangerous to some of the best teams in the world. And who knows, maybe 1 or 2 more roster changes in a 6 months from now or in a year from now will put Astralis back on the map. I don't really know, but I'm very curious to hear what you guys think, because I know it's a very controversial topic in terms of Lucky, Farlig, Xyp9x still staying on the team. I'm open to it all, I haven't really, as said many times, I'm not really quite sure. They remain a question mark to me, so all the different nuances, all the different opinions maybe coming from you guys could help me make up my mind as well. So I'm very curious to hear in the comments below, what do you think of Astralis right now? What do you think they should do? Should they kick Xyp9x right now? Should they give him until after the major? Should they have gone for another AWP than Farlig? Should they break the bank, go buy Valde? I mean, there's a lot of different ways to go. If you were in Astralis' shoes right now, as a fan, maybe as a GM, what would you do? I'm curious to hear it. And until then, let's wait and see what Astralis can do on this ship.